fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton. Sister Location is definitely a FNAF game, and while you might know that I don't particularly enjoy it, I will be putting my dislike for it aside for today's video. Plus, after that super long room video last week, I need something a little smaller and more contained. When you step back from the confusing lore and basic gameplay, the bunker itself is mysterious and intriguing. It's got some odd design choices, fitting for a man as insane as William Afton. Today, I do what I do best and explore every corner of this fascinating location known as Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental.
Read our ad and screws, bolts, and hairpins, or if this is the result of a dare, we welcome you. I will be your person.
The first place that you get to see in this game is, of course, the elevator. This small space has got to be one of the most iconic in Scott's era of games, and it's no wonder why. The long and super shaky ride acts as a perfect time to reflect on what you've seen in the previous nights and lets you ponder what's next. Taking a look around, there's quite a bit going on. The game is different from the other early FNAF games, as it's very futuristic and high-tech oriented. The elevator reflects this well, whether it be the pipes snaking every which way, the various buttons and panels that serve no obvious purpose, or the very clean and sterile metallic walls. Every detail here feels very sci-fi. Add on top of that the unnecessarily complex pattern lining the walls, along with the very clean and uniform blue lighting fixtures above. Even the windows and general shape of the space help with that futuristic feel. Not only does the elevator have this very futuristic and sci-fi feel to it, it's also very industrial. The fan above casting shadows that race along the floor and walls is a major reason for this. Combined with the occasional flicker, and you're reminded that this is indeed a location that is run by Fazbear Entertainment. Well, not exactly, rather it's run by one of the owners. Close enough. It's here that I would also like to mention the ambient noises and sounds that the elevator emits. It's subtle and sometimes very hard to hear, since Andy Field is almost always yapping in your ear.
It seems that you had some trouble with the keypad. I see what you were trying to type, and I will auto-correct it for you. One moment. Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
But it is there. A low, constant rumbling is coming from the movement of the elevator, along with the more noticeable sound of the fan above. Together, these sounds help to pull you a little more towards the time period the game takes place in, rather than the futuristic feel of everything else mentioned so far. One more detail within this space that I'd like to mention are the two posters you can find, one of Circus Baby and one of Ballora. On the first night of the game, these posters act as an intriguing preview into the horrors that await you once you step off your ride. One more thing about these posters, then I promise I'm done. This is one of the only times Circus Baby gets any screen time, and it's literally just a poster. I know you see her in parts and services later, and technically as entered, but I don't count that one. For being the star of the show and namesake of the location, she is very rarely actually seen. Once you finally get to the end of your incredibly long elevator ride, you are met with a warning. Caution tape surrounds the vent in front of you, covering everything except for the actual entrance to it. It's just a final warning as you enter the true depths of the bunker. Crawling through a very tight and crammed vent for just a little bit longer than is comfy brings you to the next section I will be covering.
You are now in the primary control module. It's actually a crawl space between the two front showrooms. Now, let's get started with your daily tasks.
The primary control module acts as a hub that grants access to many other rooms in the facility. Yet again, the vibe here is highly futuristic and sci-fi. It's quite unique across the whole series to see environments like this one. The lighting setup here is very different from the elevator we were just in. It's far more dim and dark, creating a more sinister feeling. The green leans into sci-fi again, especially the thin lines of light illuminating the vent openings. Not only that, but the static monitors above give off some faint ambient lighting of their own. Not only is the space futuristic, but it's again highly industrial. These two are a running theme in this game, and it will not be the last time I mention it. I'd also like to draw attention to the seemingly active camera above. Who is watching you remains a mystery. More obvious than the camera above are some faces that are definitely watching you. In fact, the space is filled with them. Some move and some don't, leading to an unsettling feeling within the control module. They also just feel unnecessary to actually be here in the first place. Most things in this room actually feel that way. Besides the shock panels, what else do you really need in here? I suppose a clock is a welcome addition. Maybe just remove the face from it and it would feel far better. Besides that though, what could possibly be stored in all these drawers? Perhaps spare parts, but those would feel more at home in parts and services. Wires also add to the overall clutter of the tiny space, running from ceiling to floor, powering unknown machines. Taking a look beyond the primary control module, you see nothing. Yeah, so it's really creepy that there's these large windows here that are meant to let you see the animatronics, and the only way to actually see them is by turning on a very temporary light attached to the shock panel. Those characters could be watching you right now and you'd have no idea due to the pitch black rooms they reside in. Why even have stages in the first place if the viewing of them is so limited and scarce? It doesn't feel like you get to watch the animatronics, it more so feels like they get to watch you, like a fish in a fishbowl or something of that nature. Very unsettling if you ask me. I don't know how strong this glass really is, but I don't fully trust it, especially considering the person who built this place. Actually turning on the light and taking a look into these rooms is interesting since it changes each night. On Ballora's side, night 1 is pretty normal. After motivating her, you get to see her dancing on stage. This is a fantastic way to show you a glimpse into what your killer looks like. Here we also see the mini arenas beside her, which I hate because look at these things, they're so creepy. On night 2 you see her shadow, but never actually get to see her return to stage. Considering later in the night you have to crawl through here, this is a good bit of build up for that moment. It's small but definitely effective. Night 3 gets weird. It appears that Ballora has become some sort of modern art piece. The mini arena is holding her body parts up in very nonsensical ways. Night 4 we do see Ballora, but it's not in her room, so we'll talk about that later. Night 5 is dark. Like, this is really dark for a FNAF game. I know it's just a shadow, but still, it's a very chilling scene for sure. Looking over to the Funtime Auditorium, it follows a similar pattern. Night 1 shows her dancing on stage, just like Ballora was. Night 2 again just shows his shadow, but you're not actually entering that specific room on night 2. Night 3 actually just has Foxy completely absent from the stage, with no shadow either. Still, everything is as it should be in Funtime Auditorium. This is similar to seeing Ballora missing from her stage, as immediately after you have to enter the room. Now that you know he's roaming somewhere, it makes it way more creepy to enter. Night 4 is again a little special, and Night 5 has the same thing as Ballora. The difference here is that you have to actually enter this room on Night 5. Very chilling.
On the other side of the glass is Circus Baby's Auditorium. Let's check the light and see what Baby is up to.
There is one more gallery that we've yet to talk about, and that is of course Circus Baby's. Located after another crawl through event, this room is different from the other two. It's far more isolated, and therefore gives it a more important feel. You don't figure it out until significantly later in the game, but this feeling of importance for the room is no accident. This draws great attention to the character long before ever meeting her. Combine this with the fact that you literally never see anything inside of the gallery, and it helps to add mystery to an already mysterious animatronic. The viewing room itself is, yet again, highly futuristic. It's more advanced, with many extra buttons, levers, and dials located on a large terminal. A running theme in this game, the room also features a very chaotic and distracting blue flashing light. The ambient sound you hear while in here really adds to the futuristic feel that the game is giving off. There's extra beeps and blips included here that aren't present in the primary control module. Other things of note here are some gas canisters of some kind. If you're a lore enthusiast, you know why these are significant. If you're not, then don't worry about it. You don't want to know anyways. It's complicated. The camera in this room, unlike the previous, does not appear to be active. This is odd just because of the fact that the one in the last room was definitely on and active. There's actually 2 cameras in this room, neither of which are active. Other details include another poster of Circus Baby. Like I said before, she gets more screen time in these posters than she does everywhere else in the game. I get the whole keeping her mysterious thing, but still, a little peek wouldn't have hurt, I don't think. Something that I find very unsettling are these 2 dolls, Magician and Little Joe. Yeah, they actually have names. Like the heads in the last room, they just add to the creepy atmosphere of the bunker. One last thing in this room that bugs me are these. I don't even know what they're supposed to be, but they kind of look like eyes, and that kind of freaks me out. On nights 2 and 3, you can enter a crawl space underneath the room's console. While simple, this cramped space is pretty effective at making me feel uneasy. The peepholes are probably the main reason for this. Seeing the eyes of something unknown looking back at you through them is very creepy indeed. Even if the actual gameplay here is very simple and basically impossible to die on, I think uncomfortable would be the best way to describe this space. Something about the bunker that I've been repeating is that it feels both very industrial and futuristic. This is very out of place for all of the FNAF games before Sister Location, and very rare to see even after it. However, Scott Cawthon didn't just make Five Nights at Freddy's. As I'm sure a ton of you are aware, he released a game before FNAF called The Desolate Hope. This is a game that I don't know that much about, admittedly, but I do know what it looks like and the visual style it presents. Look at these screenshots from it. Do you see the similarities to the areas we've talked about in Sister Location? This game's style is highly futuristic and industrial, exactly what the bunker of Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental is. These 2 games are so similar to each other. I know I've bashed Sister Location in the past, but honestly the more research I do for this video, the more I start to like it. This industrial style works super well. Even though The Desolate Hope isn't a horror game, some of these screenshots give off a sense of unease and dread, and that has carried over well into the more refined version of this we see in FNAF.
It is recommended that you stay low to the ground and reach the other side as fast as possible as to not disturb Ballora.
On night 2, we get to venture into Ballora's gallery. The unfortunate thing is that we really don't get to see, well, any of it. It makes for a really tense gameplay segment, especially on a first playthrough, but for the topic of today's video, it doesn't give me much to talk about. The only thing visible in the entire room, besides the squeaky clean and shiny floor, is a faint flickering light above the door to the breaker room. This acts as a beacon for the player, but it's also used once to actually show Ballora. This scene where she moves across the dim light, humming her lullaby, is chilling. Even though it's scripted, it is one of few scenes in any FNAF game that still makes me jump a little, no matter how many times I play it. We also do see a repeated use of a poster to show a character you're about to encounter before you do. This Funtime Freddy Get Ready poster is a bit creepy under the dim flickering light. The breaker room, while still just a pitch black room with flickering lights, is far more visible. That's because there are multiple lights all flicking at different times. I guess lights isn't really the right word for them. I think it's more so implied that they're sparks from the various breaker boxes in the room. These brief flashes are spooky, as they reveal just enough for you to see, but never enough to really make out what's happening. The audible sparks also help to add to the ambience and feel here. This idea for Funtime Freddy works very well to be scary. You never know where he's going to be the next time a spark flashes. It's truly panic-inducing, and the way that Freddy utilizes the space is well done too. He looms in the darkness, waiting for you to get a little too greedy with a reboot. You never get a good look at him either, making the scare factor of the whole thing last longer. The wires around the room create a mess for him to lurk in. Something of note here is that the panel here also gives you a map of the whole facility, which is something I will talk about later, because like everything in FNAF, it's complicated.
Unlike Ballora, Funtime Foxy is motion activated. For this reason, it's important to keep the room dark.
The Funtime Auditorium is yet again pitch black. Sister Location really loves its darkness. Maybe this is due to the fact that it worked so well in FNAF 4, so Scott wanted to reuse it. This one lacks any lighting on its own, and instead fully relies on a flash beacon that you can use to temporarily light the space. The mechanic is fun, and does lead to some scary shots of Funtime Foxy shaking at you from the dark. This room also connects to a few other very important rooms that I will be discussing soon. Parts and Services is not one of those super important rooms, but it is here. Again, it's very pitch black and hard to make out much of anything. In fact, the only thing here is just the conveyor for the animatronics. I like to imagine that there's more in here, spare parts, tools, etc., but we really don't know. That being said, the gameplay here relies on this darkness and vagueness to actually be scary. These scenes of both Funtime Foxy and Circus Baby here are chilling indeed. Besides this, there is nothing else of note here, and we get to move on to a couple of more interesting rooms.
It's because, dummy, this is the room where they use the scooper.
The Scooper Room is home to one of two endings in Sister Location. Night 5 isn't the only night that we go here though. On night 4 we are in the Scooper Room, but not much can be made out besides a blinking red light. We also see a glimpse of what the Scooper can do. In night 5 we find ourselves back again, this time in place of Ballora. Yeah, it doesn't end well. The scene here is terrifying if you think about it. These shells of every animatronic lie dormant in front of you, a chilling view as the fate of the player becomes clear. We also see that reoccurring blue light being obscured by the fan above return. This time, unlike the primary control module, you're the one being observed. Not only is there a camera active and watching, there are two big windows in front of you. As Baby speaks, you see a figure come into view. This shot is scary. It's subtle too, kind of easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Overall, the Scooper Room is a very good place to end the game at, but that's not really the end. It never is with FNAF. The other ending of Sister Location brings with it another room. This so-called private room is different from the rest of the bunker, as it doesn't really seem to serve a purpose. Well, it does because it has a camera system, but this system just watches over empty and barren rooms. Also the FNAF 4 house, but that's a whole different thing I'll get to soon. Anyways, every room in this area that is connected to the private room is just empty, or maybe has some pipes or canisters in it. What is all this space actually for? In the game it acts as a place to play classic FNAF, but why does it actually exist, lore-wise? If it was just a security room, it would make more sense as something that was here, but with the addition of these empty rooms, I don't see the point. These cameras, as far as we can tell, also don't see through the ones in the previous rooms we've been in. So really, what is the point of this empty yet highly monitored area? Besides that though, it works well gameplay wise to bring the classic FNAF formula into Sister Location. This room is where the custom night takes place as well, and is simple but effective with what it's trying to do.
Welcome to Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. It has been 0 days since last incident.
We may be done exploring the original game, but Sister Location's locations have appeared elsewhere in the series since then. Technically it appears in Ultimate Custom Night, but that hardly counts and doesn't have anything really worth yapping about. Help Wanted, however, does. This game has a level from Sister Location, as well as a whole new area too. First is Funtime Auditorium, and there's honestly not too much to say. The floor pattern is different, and the stage is notably absent, but besides that, nothing. The real meat of Help Wanted, when it comes to Sister Location content, is the Vent Repair Entered level. This one takes us on a ride down a maintenance elevator doing various simple tasks. Before going down, we see what is presumably a back room of Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental, which gives off FNAF 1 vibes more than anything else. Going down, we begin to see the inner workings of the facility. First is a breaker room with wires running everywhere. The staple flashing lights from Sister Location return, this time with Ennard as the threat. It's definitely a cool environment for Ennard to lurk in, and is very scary every single time you play it. Could just be because it's in VR though. Going down deeper, you may begin to notice things on your elevator ride. This elevator, for one, is extremely dirty and rusty, nothing like the futuristic feel of the original. In fact, the whole place is kind of like that. Still very industrial though. Before you can think too long, you arrive at the next room. This is just a room with a bunch of gears and pipes, and honestly it's boring. I don't know how Ennard even works here, to be perfectly honest with you. Moving on, we reach the boiler room. This room is massive and very dark, but there are occasional bursts of flame to light it up, so don't worry about the darkness. Again, this area is scary, but I think that mostly has to do with it being VR. Help Wanted 2 is the last game that I want to cover today. This one features the private room, the breaker room, and Ballora's gallery. Starting there, Ballora's room is mostly unchanged. A really cool detail about it is the more visible stage where Ballora will actually start the night. The other change here is that the floor is now checkered. The real changes come when we play the breaker room level. A cool thing that I really love about this is actually having to pull the breakers to reboot the rooms. I guess they're not really breakers and more so just levers, but you get the point. The room itself is much bigger than it was in Sister Location and has a different layout. I think this one is better and leads to more scary shots of Funtime Freddy within the dark room. The general feel of it is the same as the original, but improved greatly. I could also just be biased because, again, the VR titles are the only of like 3 that still scare me to play to this day. The private room is the final area within this game, and it's quite different from the original. Firstly, the vent is huge in this one, and it leads to some terrifying moments with the animatronics crawling down it. The desk itself is majorly changed, mostly to account for the VR controls of the game. I will say that I feel like the Fredbear plush should have definitely been included here, and I'm sad he's gone. The rooms visible on the cameras also come with more detail in this one, even if it's just some trash lying around here and there. Overall, the space is just an improvement on the original, while still keeping the feel of said original. Oh yeah, there's also the Sister Location elevator here. It has a Faz Wrench puzzle that you can't interact with, as well as some new posters. That's it though, nothing too crazy. When I started making this video, I was honestly not very excited for it. Sister Location has always been one of my least favorite games in the series, so I really didn't think that would change. However, as I started writing this script, my mind did actually start to change. Now, is it in my top 5? Still certainly no, but it's not the worst game out there. I knew I was going to make a Sister Location video at some point in this style because I want to do all the games eventually, and I'm happy I did it sooner rather than later. You will not see any more Sister Location hate from me, except for possibly some aspects of the story. The location itself is dark, ominous, and overall very unique for the Five Nights at Freddy's series as a whole. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much for doing so. I recently had a big change in my life and I am no longer working full time, so all this support is highly appreciated. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more FNAF videos like this one. One more thing, I'm trying to start a little army of sorts here on YouTube with FNAF YouTubers. If you want to be part of that, email me at this email, also in the description. I just want to collab with more people and, make some more friends too. I don't care how big your channel is, as long as you make FNAF stuff and are interested, feel free to email. With that, we are done here, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, superstars.